The White House is saying you're not acting fairly by moving so slowly on these confirmations. President Obama had far more cabinet officials in place on his first day.
He did. That's because this is a different cabinet than we've ever seen. We call it a swamp cabinet. Billionaires and bankers. And so many of them have potential conflicts of interest.
That, of course, New York's own Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer explaining why only 2 of President Trump's cabinet nominees coming in today had been approved. General James Mattis for Defense Secretary, General John Kelly at Homeland Security Secretary. Also, we learned today that Tillerson's going to be confirmed as well. Pompeo, the belief is, and others in short order. However, at this point, 8 years ago, President Obama had 7 appointees confirmed. Trump administration also, and I think this is probably just as important, if not more, hundreds of other appointments that they have yet not only to make, but even chosen the names. To me, Congressman, that's the big issue here. Obama, people don't realize this, he let 50 of his guys carry over to help them with the transition of this, not out of great love for Donald Trump, because he's worried about the State of the Union. I mean, it's real now. This isn't make-believe. He's the president. Tell people at home while they say, oh, it's just bureaucrats moving in one desk or another. You need people in these jobs, right?
You sure do, especially in terms of national security matters. And as has been described, this is now the most incomplete team to enter an administration in U.S. history. And as you said, President Trump has asked 50 Obama folks in the National Security Agency and the Pentagon to stay over because he just didn't offer any names himself. He hasn't gotten to it yet. And I've read that 3/4 of the top 100 appointees by a president have not yet been picked. 3/4 have not yet been picked. So what does that mean? It means that people are scrambling. You wonder if world powers like North Korea, ISIS, Russia, China, Iran, whether they will try to test the administration with some military action overseas when we don't have, under the Trump administration as of today, a full complement of people to advise a president, and we don't have a president who has any experience in foreign relations.
And to your point, it's already happening in that by saying we're not going to do the TPP, now all of a sudden you've got 11 other countries that were playing ball with us, at least theoretically. I understand people can have a different opinion whether it's a good or a bad deal, but now they're dealing directly with China, and that's what the whole agreement was going to try and do, is marginalize China in that part of the world for these trade pacts. And today at the press conference, Spice said, yeah, if they do anything with those man-made islands, we're going to deal with it. What does that mean? I mean, this takes life and alone. Dominic, to me, there's 2 schools, well, I guess 3 schools of thought on it. One is, he never thought he was going to win. So why pick people and interview people and do the rest? Second thing is, Chris Christie, whatever we think of him, he had picked some pretty good people, Rogers being one of them for national security, that was part of this transition. And then Junior, Kushner comes in, still remembers that Christie threw Daddy in the clink, right, when he was a U.S. attorney, and says, you're gone and everybody else you picked are gone. So they had to do a restart. Finally, he doesn't know anybody, and he's got a bunch of outsiders in there that can't draw on contacts and experience. No matter which of those 3 theories is right, they got a problem.
All 3 in order are correct. One, nobody in their right mind really thought he was going to win the election, if we're all going to be completely honest. I mean, on election night, stories about Hillary Clinton doing a fireworks display and everything. And, everyone thought at Clinton headquarters, I'm like, okay, what time are we going to count this down? What time is she going to make her speech? And then boom, the inevitable or the exact opposite happened. So no one thought he was going to win. And in fairness to the new president, though he's making one mistake after another, the Christie thing did set them back, because Christie, heading transition, did all of this work. Then they had this ego feud between the president and Christie. Then Christie falls by the wayside, and then he's done. He's got to get these jobs filled. He's a novice in the arena of politics. And to the professor's point, everyone around him, from Kellyanne Conway, who's one of the smartest people I know, she's never, to my knowledge, served in the White House. So who do you turn to for this advice?
So here's where I think the rub happens. If you're the Democrats right now, you got a conflict on your hands. God forbid something happens. Trump turns around and says, Well, they just let me, fill my cabinet with my people, and they weren't trying to score political points here. We could have been more prepared for this. It's on the Democrats. I think they're going to swallow hard and say, Pompeo, there's legitimate questions with this guy. I'm not saying he's a good guy or a bad guy, but he didn't fill out his paperwork like so many of them. There's legitimate questions of conflicts of interest that may have taken place here. There's questions of waterboarding now. What will you really do if he does that with you? Because he's gotten given mixed answers. I think they're just going to have to close their eyes, cross their fingers, and say, let's push him through. I understand Tillerson's going to happen now and a few others as well, but DeVoe, anyway, my only point is, if you're the Democrats, you're also between a rock and a hard place, how hard you fight for these folks, right?
I don't know how anybody could seriously blame the Democrats for this. This is, as Chuck Schumer mentioned, a highly unusual cabinet. It is the wealthiest ever to be nominated, and there are so many ethical questions. And not only Democrats, but Republicans have a right and a duty to question these people, and they simply don't have the time or the information they need to do it. I am borrowing this from a friend of mine who mentioned this, and I think it is a very good idea going forward. We sit through these ridiculous presidential debates when these candidates like Donald Trump are asked questions they know nothing about trade, the environment, foreign policy, education, energy, security. Why not have these people nominate 5, 6, 10 potential cabinet picks earlier in the campaign season? Have these people tell us what they would do on some of these issues, and have these people better prepared if and when the nominee wins the general election to step in these high-level posts. We could move this forward a bit, and we could also, by the way, get a much better sense about what Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton means. And I can't take credit because it was not my idea, but we sit and listen to these inane debates in which Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about, and quite frankly, most of them don't, because they're not experts in these various areas. Tell us who you're going to put in there. Let's hear from them, and they're in a better position when they take.
If we only had Rick Perry at that debate, he could have explained energy to us
or
so
Ben
fantastically. Exactly. He did live in a house. All right, coming up next, President Trump already putting a stamp on foreign policy. He's reached out to several world leaders and set up meetings, and who he's seeing, very telling. I'll tell you about that after this.